successful then.
Exactly. Shut your laptop down. Okay. So we ready to go?
Yep, I've restarted recording.
All right. So let's move on to our 1:45 time slot, which is NTIA middle mile application. Christine, do you want to kick us off?
Yep, and I assume just for the record that no action taken.
Yeah, exactly. In executive session, there was no action taken.
Okay. Yeah, so the middle mile, we've got CTC here to show the maps, but I'll give you a basic breakdown of what we're doing. And we will have the application ready Wednesday, end of day, to send to the board to see the details. But essentially what we've done, and I know the board's aware of why this middle mile was applied for, in terms of, but I do want to make a point that, we talk about affordability. And I think the most important thing, and we said this from day one, I'll just remind you, our mantra is the more money we can get in grant funding, the lower the price can be for the CUDs to provide service, because their service is all driven by what's called the average revenue per unit. And their debt service cost is a large driver of that average revenue per unit. So we've aggressively gone after a $100 million middle mile grant. And we've found tremendous support from different agencies in the state, recognizing that this is important. This is very important. In fact, I'll quote one person who said, "Hey, if you didn't apply this, it would be negligent." So essentially, we're working with a variety of partners. We've got Consolidated Retail, Waitsfield, Champlain Valley Telecom, and others have put in their route needs. We're doing really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build a highly reliable and redundant statewide network without looking at all the interstate connections as well. And we have, this is a very competitive grant. We're sitting at about a $93 million application right now. And we'll be glad to answer any detailed questions in executive session, because we are still in negotiations. And I know I had tried, the goal was to try to get this grant application out by the 15th, but we've been still negotiating with the CUDs. Overall, the CUDs are supportive. We still got some more details to work out. Our goal is to get all that done by Wednesday evening and get the board a detailed, get a copy of the application for you to review. That application needs to be in by the 30th. And also, you should know that the June Tierney also wants to review that application, who's the executive director of the Department of Public Service. And I see Holly has a question. Go ahead, Holly.
Thank you. First of all, why can't June be simultaneously reviewing it like right now?
Well, CTC had asked for a couple more days to just get some final inputs.
Okay.
Into it.
Okay, that's question one. And question two is this. I can't get my brain around why CUDs would have objections, except for the idea that some federal funding would be spent on middle mile that could be used for incumbent carriers. And so this idea that we have to go into executive session to discuss it is fraught for me, because this is the most public of applications. So I actually think concerns should be put on the record. And this is a conversation that is exceedingly public, because we're talking about how should we approach federal funding of middle mile. So maybe you're going to tell me about business plan impact that individual ISPs don't want shared, but I just feel we need some clarification about why this is confidential.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really excellent question, and I want to be very clear on this. Of what for the public that any discussions we have in executive session will be solely about the route map. And the private telecom carriers, we've signed NDAs with them that we wouldn't, share this publicly. So any specific discussions we do in executive session should be strictly limited to the routes itself, but everything else should be public. And let me just say also, add, Holly, that the CUDs are supportive. It's the same thing. Things are moving fast. Trying to go through every CUD and explain the details is what the challenge is. But overall, we do have, a tentative vote of support from the CUD. Other questions from the board? Public session.
Laura, you have a question?
No. No.
Right, do we need to move into executive session?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you want to see the routes?
All right, I'm seeing one head shake, yes.
Yes, please.
So, and I will say this on the public record, there is in Act 71 a requirement that the VCBB, or yeah, I guess I'm going to say it's a requirement that we do a state plan. Does this help us consolidate that effort of a state? Laura, you're shaking your head.
Well, I'm going to say yes. This is
mischaracterized what that
absolutely
says?
This is absolutely a statewide design.
A statewide design. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And so this is leveraging federal funding to come up with that statewide design, but all of the carriers, whether they are CUDs or incumbent carriers, have had some voice in how this design would look in the end.
I would not say all of the carriers have. However, we have the routes that will meet all of their needs. We haven't involved all the carriers because that would be very cumbersome.
Yeah, and so I would just like to be clear that this is not required as part of Act 71. This is allowed as part of Act 71. Which is a pretty big distinction. Okay?
Yeah, I'm
Agreed.
not going to comment one way or the
Agreed.
other because I don't want to take our time to pull up the act. But if you're saying that we're authorized, I'm cool.
Yeah, I have it up.
Yeah, and it's nobody would disagree that it's pretty important that the VCBB understand the state assets or the resources. Yeah.
Okay, so is there no further questions in general for the public session? Because if we're going to go into executive session, it'll just be for looking at the routes. I want to limit discussion in executive session to just what's necessary for the NDAs.
Patty,
Yes.
may I just read the section? It's brief. So the board shall have the power to, and it's shall have the power to contract for a comprehensive statewide fiber optic engineering design to identify strategies that maximize fiber optic build-out efficiency and ensure resiliency and interoperability of all existing fiber optic network built with public or ratepayer funds, and that takes into consideration all proposed publicly funded fiber optic projects, the development of which shall not be required or impede the disbursement of grants under this chapter. That's the end.
Cool beans.
Well done.
Cool beans.
All right, any other public discussion on the NTIA middle mile grant application? All right, I'm going to put a motion that we move to executive session. It would include board members, staff, CTC, as premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage, referencing 1 VSA section 313, paragraph A, I think that's F. A1, sorry. It's really small on my thing here. Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye.
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 Okay, ayes have
I'm
it. So
afraid
we'll
to leave
move
this
forward to
group.
executive session. I hope.
Oops. Alyssa, please stop the recording. For everybody here, we're going to still aim for 2:15 for the hearing. We may be 5 minutes late or so.
For the hearing.